The Silent Watchers. The Galactic Federation had seen many strange things in its 12,000 years of existence. Civilizations that communicated through colors, species that lived in gas clouds, empires built inside black holes. But nothing had ever puzzled them quite like humanity's great silence. It began exactly 5,247 standard years ago, during what historians would later call the Withdrawal. Earth had been an active member of the Federation for nearly 3 centuries. Human ambassadors attended every council meeting. Their traders filled the space lanes. Their explorers pushed into the darkest corners of unknown space. Then, without warning or explanation, every human ship returned to Earth. Every communication stopped. Every trade agreement was quietly abandoned. The blue-green planet simply went silent. At first, the Federation Council worried. Had humanity suffered some great catastrophe, disease, civil war? They sent diplomatic missions to Earth's solar system, but the ships were turned away at the asteroid belt by automated drones that spoke only one message: Earth requires solitude. Please respect our boundaries. The messages were polite, but firm. No threats were made. No weapons were fired, but the meaning was clear. Stay away. Ambassador Crix of the Zelathi Republic had been Earth's closest ally in those early days. She remembered the humans fondly, their curiosity, their surprising wisdom, their strange ability to find solutions where others saw only problems. When the Council debated Earth's silence, she always spoke in their defense. Patience, she would say, her scaled hands gesturing calmly. Humans are young but thoughtful. Perhaps they simply need time to grow. But patience was not something the galaxy possessed in abundance. As decades turned to centuries, and centuries turned to millennia, the jokes began. At diplomatic gatherings, delegates would laugh about the scared little humans who hid behind their star. Trade captains would boast about how they could conquer Earth with a single cargo ship. Military academies used humanity as an example of a species that couldn't handle the pressures of galactic civilization. The worst of the mockery came from the Vaxri Empire. This brutal coalition of warrior species had built their power through conquest and intimidation. They ruled over 47 systems with an iron fist, crushing any resistance with overwhelming force. To them, Earth's silence was the ultimate sign of weakness. Commander Zelthor, the Vaxari's most feared military leader, made Earth the subject of countless jokes. His dark purple skin bore the ritual scars of 100 victories, and his 4 arms could wield weapons with deadly precision. During military parades, he would point toward Earth's direction and laugh. Somewhere out there, he would tell his officers, sits a world full of cowards. They have resources, technology, maybe even weapons, but they lack the one thing that matters most, the will to use them. His subordinates would cheer and beat their weapons against their shields. The sound echoed through the Vaxri homeworld, like thunder. For 5,000 years, this was the galaxy's understanding of humanity. They were the ones who gave up, the ones who couldn't handle the competition, the ones who ran home and hid under their solar system's blanket. But a few voices continued to urge caution. Ambassador Crix, now ancient even by Zelathi standards, still attended Federation meetings. Her once bright scales had faded to a dull silver, and her voice had grown quiet with age. But when the topic of Earth arose, she always spoke the same warning. We knew them for 300 years, she would say. In that time, they never showed fear. They faced the crystal plague when it threatened the inner worlds. They volunteered for the most dangerous exploration missions. They solved the maelstrom crisis when our best scientists failed. These are not the actions of cowards. The younger delegates would nod politely but dismiss her words as the ramblings of an old diplomat clinging to outdated friendships. They had never known humans. To them, Earth was just an empty symbol, a cautionary tale about species that couldn't adapt to galactic life. The turning point came during the Festival of Conquest, the Vaxi Empire's annual celebration of military might. Delegates from across the galaxy gathered on the industrial moon of Korath, primed to witness displays of weapons and strategy. It was here that Commander Zelther made his fateful proposal. "The galaxy grows soft," he declared to the assembled crowd. "We celebrate past victories while ignoring present opportunities. I speak of Earth, that forgotten world in the Milky Way's outer spiral. For 5 millennia, it has sat undefended, unclaimed, untested." The crowd grew silent. Even among the Vaxari, Earth was rarely discussed seriously. It was too easy a target, too pointless a conquest. Zelfor continued, his voice carrying across the vast amphitheater. "Some of you think it beneath us to claim such a weak prize. But I say weakness rewarded becomes strength emboldened. If we allow one species to mock the galaxy with their cowardice, others may try the same. Earth must be conquered, not for its resources, but as an example." High Counselor Vrock of the Federation stood to respond. His species, the Mordani, were known for their diplomatic wisdom. "Commander Zelthor, Earth has committed no crimes against the galaxy. They have violated no laws, threatened no worlds. What justification exists for such aggression?" Zelther's laugh was like grinding metal. "Justification they have hidden from galactic civilization for 5,000 years. They have refused trade, rejected diplomacy, ignored every attempt at contact. This is not peaceful isolation, this is contempt for the galaxy itself." The debate raged for hours, but the outcome was inevitable. The Vaxari Empire was too powerful, their military too vast, their influence too widespread. When the vote was called, 3/4 of the galaxy's representatives agreed. Earth would be given one final chance to rejoin galactic civilization. If they refused, the Vaxari would be authorized to bring them back by force. The message was sent toward Earth using the most powerful communication arrays in the galaxy. It was broadcast on every frequency, translated into every language humans had ever used. The ultimatum was simple: respond within 100 standard days or face the consequences. For 99 days, nothing happened. Earth remained as silent as it had for 5,000 years. On the 100th day, the galaxy received its answer, but it wasn't the response anyone expected. It began with the outer monitoring stations. These automated sensors, scattered throughout human space, suddenly activated after millennia of dormancy. They didn't send messages or threats. They simply began transmitting data, vast streams of information about every ship, every fleet, every military installation within 1,000 light-years of Earth. The scope of the surveillance was terrifying. The monitors knew the exact location of every Vaxari battleship. They had detailed scans of classified weapons systems. They possessed communication logs from secret military meetings. For 5,000 years, while the galaxy assumed Earth was sleeping, humanity had been watching everything. Captain Elena Vasquez of the Federation Science Corps was among the first to analyze the data streams. Her small research vessel, the Curiosity, had been studying ancient signal patterns when the transmissions began. What she saw on her screens defied belief. "This can't be right," she whispered to her crew. "According to these readings, there are artificial structures throughout the entire Sol system, not just around Earth, but hidden in the asteroid belt, buried in Jupiter's moons, even camouflaged within the Sun's corona. Her science officer, a young Alterian named Vex, pulled up additional scans. "Captain, I'm detecting massive energy signatures. Whatever they built out there, it's been running on standby for centuries. And now, now it's powering up." The news reached the Vaxri fleet within hours. Commander Zelthor was aboard his flagship, the Shadowbane, leading a force of 3,000 warships toward Earth. When he received the intelligence reports, his first reaction was dismissal. "Sensor ghosts," he told his bridge crew. 5,000. Years of isolation has probably filled their system with debris and malfunctioning equipment. These readings mean nothing. But his chief intelligence officer, a scarred veteran named Korvac, wasn't so sure. "Commander, the signal patterns are too organized to be random. And the power signatures, they're unlike anything in our databases." Zelthor's four eyes narrowed as he studied the data. "Then we'll see what these mysterious signals really are. Order the fleet to maximum combat speed. If the humans want to play games with sensor decoys, we'll show them what real power looks like." The Vaxri Armada was a sight that had brought terror to dozens of worlds. Their ships were built like weapons of war, all sharp angles and armored plating, bristling with cannons and missile tubes. The Shadowbane alone was 30 kilometers long, carrying enough firepower to level a continent. Behind it followed cruisers, destroyers, fighters, and support vessels in perfect formation. But as they approached the edge of human space, strange things began to happen. The first oddity was the silence. Normal space was filled with background radiation, stellar winds, and cosmic noise. But as the fleet crossed into the Sol system's outer boundaries, all of that faded away. It was as if they had entered a zone of absolute quiet. The second oddity was the darkness. Not the natural darkness of space, but an artificial shadow that seemed to swallow their sensor beams. Stars that should have been visible were somehow blocked from view. The third oddity was the feeling. Even the most hardened Vaxri warriors began to report a sense of being watched. It was subtle at first, just a prickle of unease, a feeling that eyes were following their every movement. But as they moved deeper into the system, the sensation grew stronger. Commander Zelthor refused to show any concern. "Psychological warfare," he announced to his fleet. "The humans are trying to make us nervous with parlor tricks. Maintain course and speed." But when they reached the asteroid belt, the parlor tricks became something far more serious. The asteroids began to move. Not the slow, predictable orbits of natural rocks, but deliberate, coordinated movements. Chunks of stone and metal that had drifted in space for billions of years suddenly shifted positions, creating clear corridors through what had been chaotic debris fields. "It's a welcome mat," whispered one of the bridge officers. "It's a trap," corrected another. Zelthor studied the newly formed pathway leading toward Earth. It was wide enough for his entire fleet, perfectly aligned with their approach vector. Too convenient to be natural, too obvious to be subtle. There, guiding us in, he realized. The humans want us to follow this route. Should we take an alternate approach? Asked his navigation officer, Zeltar considered the question for a long moment. Everything about this situation felt wrong. The surveillance, the silence, the moving asteroids, none of it matched the behavior of a weak, frightened species. But 5,000 years of galactic consensus couldn't be wrong, could it? No, he decided finally. We follow their path. If this is a trap, we'll spring it on our terms. All ships, battle stations, whatever the humans are planning, will be ready. The Vaxari fleet moved deeper into the Sol system, following the corridor of repositioned asteroids. Behind them, the rocks slowly returned to their original positions, sealing off any retreat. Ahead of them, Earth grew larger in their view screens, a blue marble suspended in the darkness, looking as peaceful and defenseless as it had for 5 millennia. But appearances, as the galaxy was about to learn, could be devastatingly deceptive. The awakening storm. The moment Commander Zelthar's fleet crossed Mars' orbit, Earth came alive. It wasn't a gradual awakening. There was no slow build-up of activity, no cautious testing of systems that had been dormant for millennia. In the span of 17 seconds, the third planet from the Sun transformed from a quiet world into something that defied every assumption the galaxy had made about humanity. The first sign was the light. Brilliant blue-white beams erupted from Earth's surface, piercing through the atmosphere and into space. But these weren't random flashes or desperate signals for help. They were precise, coordinated, and they were aimed directly at every major star system in the galaxy. Within minutes, those beams reached their targets. On the Vaxari homeworld, on the Federation capital, on every military installation and government center within 1,000 light years, the same message appeared simultaneously on every screen, every communication device, every piece of technology capable of displaying information. The message was simple. This is Earth. Your test is over. Aboard the Shadowbane, Commander Zelthor stared at the words glowing on his command screen. Test? What test? His answer came immediately. The space around Earth began to shimmer like heat waves rising from a desert. Then, as if a massive curtain was being pulled away, ships began to appear, not emerging from hiding places or decloaking from stealth systems, but materializing from what seemed to be empty vacuum. First came the escorts, sleek vessels barely larger than fighters, moving in perfect formation. Then the destroyers, their hulls gleaming with an unknown metal that seemed to absorb and redirect light. Next were the cruisers, each one larger than any warship in the Vaxari fleet, their surfaces covered in geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly, but it was the dreadnoughts that made Zelthor's blood run cold. They were massive beyond comprehension, each one the size of a small moon. Their shape was organic, flowing, as if they had been grown rather than built, and there were hundreds of them, arranged in a perfect sphere around Earth. Their weapons pointed outward, toward every approach vector. How many ships are out there? Zelthor whispered. His sensor officer's voice was barely audible. I'm counting, ... 15,000. No, 20,000. The sensors can't keep up with the materialization rate, but the numbers were just the beginning of the horror. As the human fleet revealed itself, it became clear that these ships operated by principles the galaxy didn't understand. They moved without visible engines, turned without maneuvering thrusters, and maintained formation without any detectable communication between vessels. Sir, his communications officer called out, we're receiving a transmission from Earth. Audio and visual. The main screen flickered, then cleared to show a human woman standing on what appeared to be a ship's bridge. She was tall and lean, with graying hair pulled back in a simple style. Her uniform was dark blue, bearing insignia that no galactic database could identify. But it was her eyes that commanded attention, calm, intelligent, and completely without fear. I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force, she said, her voice carrying clearly across the void. Commander Zelthor, your fleet is currently surrounded by 17,423 human warships. Before you consider any hostile action, I want you to understand something important. The image changed, showing a view of space near the Vaxri homeworld. Zelthor recognized the distinctive red dwarf star and the orbital installations that protected their capital. But floating among those installations, previously invisible, were more human ships. Thousands of them. For 5,000 years, Admiral Chen continued, humanity has watched the galaxy. We have studied your technologies, learned your languages, mapped your territories, and analyzed your military capabilities. Every major world in the galaxy currently has a human fleet in orbit. Every strategic resource is under our observation. Every weapon system is within range of our guns. The image shifted again, showing similar scenes from dozens of worlds. The Federation capital, surrounded by human vessels. The trade hub of Nexus Prime, with human dreadnoughts drifting between the commercial stations. Even the heavily fortified border worlds of the neutral zone had human ships positioned nearby. Zelthor felt his forehands begin to tremble. Impossible. Our sensors would have detected them. Admiral Chen seemed to hear his whispered protest. You detected what we wanted you to detect. For 5 millennia, you saw a silent, empty Earth because that's what we needed you to see. Well, you built your empires and fought your wars. We built something different. We built patience. The transmission continued, but now the camera pulled back to show more of the human bridge. The crew moved with quiet efficiency, their faces calm and focused. These weren't desperate defenders preparing for a hopeless last stand. These were professionals who had been preparing for this moment for thousands of years. Every species in the galaxy has a philosophy of strength, Chen explained. The Vaxari believe in conquest through superior firepower. The Zelathi trust in diplomatic manipulation. The Modani rely on economic pressure. Humanity chose a different path. We chose to become strong by appearing weak. On his private command channel, Zelthor heard reports flooding in from across the Empire. His garrison commanders were in panic. Human ships had appeared without warning in every system under Vaxari control. Not attacking, not threatening, just ... present, watching, waiting. What do you want? Zelthor finally transmitted back to Earth. Admiral Chen's expression didn't change. That depends entirely on what happens in the next few minutes, Commander. You came to our solar system with 3,000 warships and the intention to conquer our world. You represent a galaxy that has spent 5,000 years mocking humanity's retreat from galactic affairs. Now you've learned the truth about that retreat. She gestured, and the view changed again. This time it showed the interior of what could only be described as a vast construction facility. Ships were being built on an industrial scale that dwarfed anything the galaxy had ever seen. Assembly lines stretched for kilometers, automated systems worked with impossible precision, and completed vessels rolled off production lines in an endless stream. We didn't retreat because we were afraid, Chen continued. We retreated because we recognized something the rest of the galaxy refused to see. The galactic community was trapped in a cycle of competition and conflict. Every species trying to prove they were stronger, faster, smarter than everyone else. Every advancement immediately turned into a weapon. Every discovery twisted into an advantage over neighbors. Zelthor found his voice again. And you thought you were above all that? No, Chen replied. We thought we could do better. So we withdrew from the competition and started building something new. Not weapons designed to destroy others, but systems designed to protect everyone. Not fleets meant to conquer territory, but forces capable of maintaining peace. The demonstration that followed was unlike anything in recorded galactic history. Without any visible signal or communication, every human ship in the galaxy began to move simultaneously. They didn't attack or threaten. Instead, they began to patrol. Around the Vaxari homeworld, human vessels moved to intercept asteroid miners who had been secretly harvesting resources from protected worlds. Near the Federation capital, they began scanning for the hidden slave trade routes that everyone knew existed but nobody wanted to investigate. In the neutral zones, they started marking the locations of weapons caches and illegal military bases. 5,000 years of watching has taught us where all the bodies are buried, Chen explained. Calmly, we know about every corruption scandal, every illegal weapons program, every suppressed war crime in galactic history. We've been waiting for the right moment to act on that knowledge. Captain Elena Buskis, still watching from her small research vessel, found herself caught between terror and amazement. They've been planning this for 5,000 years, she whispered to her crew. Every joke, every insult, every dismissal, they were listening to all of it. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the revelation of humanity's true capabilities was causing unprecedented chaos. Government officials who had spent their careers dismissing Earth as irrelevant were now faced with the reality that human ships had been watching their every move for millennia. Military commanders discovered that their most secret plans had been known to human intelligence agencies before they were even implemented. But it was the response from ordinary citizens that surprised everyone most. On world after world, as news of humanity's emergence spread, there were celebrations. Populations that had lived under the threat of Vaxari conquest for generations suddenly felt safe. Slave colonies that had given up hope of freedom began to dream of liberation. Admiral Chen allowed this to sink in before delivering her ultimatum. The galaxy now has a choice, she said, her image broadcast to every inhabited world simultaneously. You can continue with the old way of doing things, competition, conflict, and conquest, or you can join us in building something better, a galactic community based on cooperation instead of domination. She paused, letting the weight of her words settle across space. But understand this clearly. The age of unchecked aggression is over. The age of the strong preying upon the weak has ended. Humanity will not tolerate conquest, slavery, or genocide anywhere in the galaxy. We have the power to enforce this decision, and we have had 5,000 years to prepare for the responsibility. Commander Zelthor, his four hands now openly shaking, transmitted a desperate response. You're threatening the entire galaxy. You're demanding surrender to your authority. No, Chen replied patiently. We're offering partnership in building a better future. But if you choose to see that as a threat, then you're welcome to test our resolve. To demonstrate that resolve, she gave a simple command. All ships, demonstration pattern 7, across the galaxy. 17,000 human warships moved into position around strategic targets. Not weapons or military installations, but the economic and communication networks that held galactic civilization together. Trade routes, data relays, industrial centers, everything that made modern galactic life possible. The message was clear without being spoken. Humanity could shut down galactic civilization without firing a shot. You have 7 standard days to respond, Chen announced. Every government, every empire, every independent world has that long to decide whether They want to be part of the solution or remain part of the problem. Choose wisely. The transmission ended, leaving the galaxy in stunned silence. Commander Zelthor found himself staring at the 17,000 human ships surrounding his fleet, knowing that his 3,000 vessels, once the pride of the Vaxari Empire, were hopelessly outmatched. His communications officer was receiving surrender offers from his own subordinates, commanders who had realized the futility of resistance. But it was a transmission from the Vaxari homeworld that sealed his fate. High Command, those same leaders, who had authorized this invasion with such confidence, were now ordering immediate withdrawal and requesting emergency diplomatic negotiations with Earth. All ships, Zelthor transmitted with defeat heavy in his voice, stand down weapons and prepare for return journey. The invasion is ... cancelled. As the Vaxari fleet began its humiliating retreat, Admiral Chen opened a private channel to Zelthor. "Ship Commander," she said, her tone less formal now. "I want you to understand something. This didn't have to be humiliating. If you had approached us with respect instead of conquest, if you had asked for partnership instead of demanding surrender, today could have been the beginning of a golden age for your people." Zelthor, his pride shattered but his mind finally clear, asked the question that had been haunting him. "Why reveal yourselves now? You could have stayed hidden for another 1,000 years." Admiral Chen's expression softened slightly, because the galaxy is about to face challenges that will require every species working together. There are threats coming from beyond our borders that make our past conflicts look like children's games. Humanity spent 5,000 years preparing not just to police the galaxy, but to defend it. As if to emphasize her point, long-range sensors throughout human space suddenly activated, their beams reaching toward the dark space between galaxies. What they detected there would soon give the galaxy an entirely new perspective on the importance of unity, but that was a story for another day. For now, the galaxy had learned a fundamental truth. Sometimes the quiet ones are quiet not because they're weak, but because they're strong enough to choose their battles. And humanity had just chosen theirs. Asterisk.